Liberal leaders being accused of making self-defense a crime. New York City store worker Jose Alba is back home after his bail was lowered, but is still facing a murder charge. Video showing the altercation with Alba stabbing a man after being confronted behind the counter and shoved into a wall. Crime is up overall in the city, and the NYPD commissioner thinks repeated offenders could be to blame.
We do see a number of people that we are rearresting for the same offenses over and over again. Grand larcenies, in many instances, they're either car thefts. We also have shopliftings or multiple shopliftings, and that basically that will turn into a robbery if it escalates into a robbery. And we're seeing the same people over and over again.
The spotlight on Jose Alba's case putting pressure on liberal leaders to act. New York City Mayor Adams blaming extreme ideologies for the public safety crisis.
There's two battles that are happening in our country and our city right now. You have the far right that states give everyone a gun, no matter what. You have the far left that states everyone that uses a gun should not be held accountable. These two groups are not the majority of Americans, and they have actually held our country and our city hostage. These two groups don't realize they're co-conspirators to the public safety crises that we're facing in our city and country.
So, Judge, I'm going to go to you first on this. In terms of the case, Jose Alba's case, the bodega worker, what do you think his odds are at winning this as a self-defense case?
Good to excellent.
Great.
Good to excellent. In fact, I think if they put it in the grand jury may say there isn't probable cause for an indictment in this case. Look, what you've got is a gang-banging career criminal, several state prison stints, who comes in. His girlfriend tried to use a debit card that didn't work. She calls her boyfriend. He comes in, starts yelling, jumps over the counter, knocks the owner over. The owner is doesn't have a record, and then pushes him. And then he picks him up, and then he pushes him again. And when he pulls him to take him out of there, that's when the guy who owns a bodega grabs the knife to defend himself. He doesn't know where he's going at that point. And the unfortunate part of all of this is, look, you've got a guy who was confronted with a gun here, the bodega owner, several months earlier. So he knows that, people who come in seriously. But I got to say one more thing before you move on. I'll be very quick. I got to tell you, the more I hear this guy Adams, the less I like the guy.
Absolutely.
Okay? What is this? We've got co-conspirators. If anybody's a co-conspirator, you are. The reason that the mayor is a co-conspirator here, he's blaming it on the left and he's blaming it on the right. It's your fault. It's your city. You're a cop. You knew when you ran, you promised that you were going to take care of gun crimes and murders, and you haven't done a damn thing. You won't go after Governor Hochul, who's running for office, and cash this bail, get her to repeal it. You won't do it with Heastie or with Andrea Stewart's cousins in Albany. You ought to go to every homicide in this city and hold a sign up and say, because of cashless bail, this murder happened. And I won't go on.
Joey, I heard you get it.
Yeah, two things here. Number one, the gruesomeness of being stabbed to death could be prevented with a gun. That's a much more humane way to defend yourself. All right, that's number one. Number two, if the gun laws weren't so ridiculous that a shop owner in a city prone to violence can't have a shotgun to defend himself easily, brandishing that shotgun might have had that dude turn around and run the other way. And so it's a deterrent in a lot of ways. The fact is, you're going to see more of this because people are not going to put up with lawlessness. They're not going to be put up with having their own lives threatened for simply running a business. They're not going to put up with a class of Americans who think they can impose their will on what they perceive to be the weak because there's no consequence. And how many people need to needlessly die at knife point before DAs start prosecuting people, putting them in jail for smaller crimes? I mean, who could have saved that man's life? Whoever let him out of jail could have saved his life by keeping him in jail. He wouldn't have been on the streets to perform the next act of violence, because obviously slapping someone in the hand saying, you know what, you've had rough breaks in life, you shouldn't be put in this position, we're going to let you back out, that doesn't work. That doesn't prevent crime. But it will get you killed if you walk into a shop, into a bodega and threaten somebody's life. That'll get you killed.
Well, Greg, something that we've been talking about is the kind of dumb moment about, yes, these are people who you're returning to the streets. And that's what the commissioner was acknowledging there. And I'd love your thoughts on that. And also the point that it was actually the public that got this guy out on bail because there was such public outcry in defense of Jose Alba that they lowered the bail to a reasonable amount that he could actually get himself out of there. So do you see more of a role for people like us in making sure that justice is served?
Yeah, as much as I despise Jesse Waters, makes me sick to my stomach. The fact that he gets to take Fridays off because his back hurts when what is he doing? He's sitting while we're here yelling and screaming. He's off having a margarita. But yesterday, he was the one that said that, he said, so I got to give him credit that like we have to stay on this and get this guy out.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people watch that. We're the #1 show in history, I believe, of all television shows. You might want to fact check that, but I do believe that we are the #1 show in history. And he said that, he said we have to keep on this, and lo and behold, you have it on the New York Post. But this is think about this. This is the thing that in an alternative universe it will infuriate you. What if there was no tape?
Exactly.
Yeah. They would have taken the stabbed suspect. He would be a martyr. Yeah. There would be a mural. There would be a march. There would be riots. And the bodega worker would be portrayed as a monster.
As a racist?
Yes. But thankfully, this is why, I am now so pro-surveillance, body cam, put it everywhere. Because if you didn't see this, you know exactly the kind of narrative. You know what happened? Biden would have spoke out against this bodega guy. He would have said, that bodega guy, he's got to pay. Look what he did to this innocent, this poor, he was just getting his life back together. And he gets stabbed by a monster.
Right. Katie, love to get your thoughts before.
The idea that there was bail at all for Jose Alba is atrocious, given the kind of criminals they let out with no bail. And the fact that he's being charged at all in the situation when there is video is absolutely ridiculous, and it will make his life much harder in the future. Most people, especially people working in crime-ridden areas like New York City, would rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Yeah. And it's a lot easier to do that when you live in an area where you're allowed to defend yourself with a firearm. And so for Mayor Adams to come out in support of this bodega worker, good thing, but he has done nothing to offer any kind of deterrence to these criminals who aren't afraid of the system. They're not afraid of the cops. They're not afraid of the prosecutors, obviously, because they're running back through the system, as that police officer was saying. So the only thing they're going to be afraid of is self-defense. And the mayor of New York City is preventing people from being allowed to defend their own lives from people who walk in and know that there will be no consequences for them because the mayor and everybody else are on the side, not of the bodega workers trying to make an honest living, but the criminals in the city who are running the show.
They do overcharge on potato chips, though. Let's be clear.
Well,
no.
They deserved it. Stay right there. We have breaking news about Elon Musk's Twitter deal next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.